It happened again yesterday. You were standing in line at the grocery store, minding your own business, when someone tapped your shoulder. You turned around and saw a face you recognized immediately. Someone you went to school with, someone you worked with years ago, someone who knew you during that difficult chapter of your life, and they looked at you with genuine confusion in their eyes. "I am sorry, do I know you? You look so familiar." That moment right there, that awkward pause where you had to explain who you were, that flash of disbelief on their face when you told them your name, that slow recognition followed by something that looked almost like shock. Wait, that is really you. What happened to you? This is not the first time this has happened. In fact, it keeps happening more and more frequently. People from your past, who should recognize you instantly, are doing double takes. Former colleagues who worked next to you for years are squinting like they are trying to place your face. Even family friends who watched you grow up are asking if you had some kind of procedure done. And the strange part is, you have not had any procedures. You have not undergone any dramatic physical transformation that you can point to. You did not lose 100 pounds. You did not get cosmetic surgery. You did not start some extreme fitness regimen. All you did was make one simple decision that changed everything. You walked away. You walked away from people who drained you. You walked away from environments that diminished you. You walked away from relationships that required you to shrink yourself to make others comfortable. You walked away from jobs that extracted your soul in exchange for a paycheck. You walked away from friendships that only existed when they needed something from you. And something happened in that walking away. Something nobody warned you about. Something you were not expecting. Something that goes deeper than physical appearance, but somehow shows up right there on your face for everyone to see. If you have experienced this exact thing where people from your past literally do not recognize you anymore, leave a comment right now sharing your story, because you need to understand what is actually happening here. What you are experiencing is not just about looking different. What is manifesting in your physical appearance is the external evidence of internal liberation. When you finally gave yourself permission to leave what was killing you, your body started remembering what it felt like to be alive. When you stopped performing for people who would never be satisfied, your face stopped carrying the weight of constant performance. When you released relationships that required you to be less than you are, your entire energy shifted from contraction to expansion. And that shift is visible. That shift is obvious. That shift is so pronounced that people who knew the old version of you cannot reconcile it with the person standing in front of them now. They remember someone tired, someone stressed, someone who always looked like they were carrying the weight of the world, someone who smiled, but the smile never quite reached their eyes, someone who seemed older than their years because of everything they were enduring. And now they are looking at someone who appears younger, lighter, more vibrant, more alive than the person they remember. Their brain is trying to make sense of the disconnect. How can someone look better now than they did 10 years ago? How can someone appear more rested now than when they were in their 20s? How can someone radiate more peace now than when their life was supposedly less complicated? The answer makes them uncomfortable because it forces them to confront something they do not want to face. You look different because you chose yourself. You look lighter because you released what was heavy. You look younger because you stopped aging yourself through stress and people-pleasing and staying in situations that were destroying you from the inside out. Let me tell you what really happens when you walk away from what is not meant for you. At first, it feels terrifying. You question everything. Did I make the right choice? Am I being selfish? What if I regret this? What if things do not get better? What if I just made the biggest mistake of my life? Those questions haunt you in the beginning because you have been conditioned to believe that staying is noble and leaving is weak, that enduring is strength and protecting yourself is cowardice, that sacrificing your well-being for others is love and choosing your peace is abandonment. So you walk through those early days feeling guilty, feeling uncertain, feeling like maybe you should go back. But then something starts to shift. You wake up one morning and realize you slept through the entire night without waking up anxious. You notice you are not checking your phone every 5 minutes, waiting for someone to need something from you. You catch yourself laughing, really laughing. Not the polite laugh you perfected for uncomfortable situations, but actual genuine laughter that comes from somewhere deep. You look in the mirror, and the person looking back seems familiar in a way you had forgotten. Like meeting an old friend you lost touch with, and that old friend is you. The version of you that existed before you learned to make yourself smaller, before you accepted treatment you did not deserve, before you convinced yourself that your needs did not matter as much as everyone else's needs. If this is resonating with you right now, hit the like button. Because what I am about to tell you next will explain why your transformation is not just emotional, but physical. Your body keeps the score. Every toxic relationship you stayed in too long, your body recorded every boundary you failed to set. Your cells remembered. Every time you said yes when you meant no, your nervous system stored that data. Every environment that made you feel less than, your face held that tension. All of it accumulated. All of it showed up in how you looked, how you moved, how you carried yourself through the world. Tight jaw from biting your tongue. Tense shoulders from carrying burdens that were not yours. Exhausted eyes from nights spent overthinking conversations and interactions. Worry lines from constantly trying to manage other people's emotions. Your body was literally shaped by what you were enduring. And when you walked away, when you finally said enough, when you chose yourself for the first time in years, or maybe the first time ever, your body started releasing what it had been holding. That tension in your jaw began to dissolve. Those tight shoulders started to drop. Those exhausted eyes started to clear. Those worry lines started to soften, not because of any external intervention, but because you removed the source of the stress. You extracted yourself from the environment that was aging you. You stepped out of relationships that were draining the life from you. Subscribe to this channel right now if you want to understand more about what happens when you finally choose yourself after years of choosing everyone else. And here is what nobody tells you about this transformation. The people who knew you during your suffering do not want to see you thriving. Not all of them, but many of them, because your transformation holds up a mirror to their stagnation. Your peace highlights their chaos. Your boundary setting exposes their boundary violations. Your new life asks an uncomfortable question about their unchanged life. If you could walk away and be fine, better than fine, why are they still stuck? If you could choose yourself and flourish, what does that say about their choice to stay in what is hurting them? Your visible wellness becomes an indictment of their continued sickness, and they cannot handle it. So they respond in predictable ways. Some get angry. How dare you look so good after everything that happened? Some get suspicious. What are you hiding? What is the real story? Some get passive-aggressive, must be nice to just abandon responsibilities and do whatever you want. Some get dismissive. You have not really changed. You are just going through a phase. All of these responses are defense mechanisms, ways to avoid confronting the truth your transformation is presenting, that staying in toxicity is a choice, that you do not have to accept mistreatment, that life can be different if you are brave enough to make it different. Let me tell you about Sarah. Not her real name, but her real story. Sarah spent 15 years in a marriage that slowly eroded who she was. Nothing dramatic, nothing she could point to and say this is abuse. Just 1,000 small moments of dismissal, criticism, contempt disguised as jokes, needs ignored, dreams mocked, contributions minimized. She thought this is just what marriage is. She thought everyone feels this way. She thought she was expecting too much. Until one day she looked in the mirror and did not recognize herself. Not in a good way. She saw someone who looked defeated, someone who had given up, someone who was just going through the motions of being alive without actually living. That was her breaking point. Not a big fight, not a dramatic betrayal, just that moment of recognizing she had lost herself completely. She left, filed for divorce, moved into a small apartment, started rebuilding from scratch, and within 6 months, people started commenting, "You look so different. Did you lose weight? Did you get work done? What is your secret?" She had not lost significant weight. She had not had any work done. Her secret was she stopped carrying the weight of a relationship that required her to betray herself daily. 2 years later, she ran into an old colleague at a conference, someone she had worked closely with for years, and he walked right past her. She had to call his name 3 times before he turned around. When he finally recognized her, he actually said these words, "I cannot believe that is you. You look like a completely different person. What happened?" And Sarah smiled and said, "I started living for myself instead of dying for someone else." If you have a story like Sarah's, share it in the comments, because your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Here is what I need you to understand about this phenomenon. This is not about being selfish. This is not about abandoning people. This is not about running away from commitment. This is about recognizing that you cannot pour from an empty cup, that you cannot love others well when you are destroying yourself, that you cannot be present for anyone when you are dying inside, that choosing yourself is not the opposite of loving others. It is the prerequisite for loving others in a healthy way. When you were in those toxic situations, you were not really there anyway. You were going through the motions, performing the role, playing the part. But the real you was buried under layers of compromise and accommodation and self-betrayal. The real you was suffocating. The real you was dying. And everyone around you was interacting with a ghost, a shell, a performance. They were not getting the authentic you. They were getting the diminished version you had become in order to survive in that environment. So when you left, when you walked away, when you chose yourself, you were not taking anything away from them. You were actually giving them the opportunity to interact with the real you, the whole you, the alive you, the version that has energy to give because you are not spending it all just trying to survive. Now, let me tell you what happens next in this journey, because this is where it gets interesting. After the initial shock wears off, after people stop asking what happened to you, after the transformation becomes your new normal, you enter a different phase. The phase where you attract completely different people into your life before. You attracted people who needed fixing, people who were drawn to your people-pleasing tendencies, people who could sense you were someone who would sacrifice yourself for their comfort, people who were looking for someone to drain, but now operating from this place of wholeness, from this energy of someone who has chosen themselves. You attract different people. You attract other people who have also done the work, other people who have also walked away from what was killing them. Other people who also understand that self-care is not selfish. Other people who also know their worth. And these new relationships feel different. They feel light. They feel reciprocal. They feel like you can actually be yourself without walking on eggshells. They feel like you can have needs and express them without being made to feel like a burden. They feel like rest instead of work. They feel like home instead of performance. This is not luck. This is not coincidence. This is what happens when you operate from a healed place instead of a wounded place. You stop attracting people who want to exploit your wounds and start attracting people who want to celebrate your healing. Drop a comment right now if you have noticed this shift in the kind of people who are coming into your life now versus before. And here is something else that happens that nobody talks about. Your relationship with yourself changes before. You were at war with yourself, constantly criticizing, constantly disappointed, constantly feeling like you were not enough, not pretty enough, not smart enough, not successful enough, not thin enough, not outgoing enough, not whatever enough. Your inner dialogue was brutal. But when you walked away from people who treated you poorly, something interesting happened. You started questioning that inner voice. You started realizing that inner critic sounded an awful lot like the external critics you just left. That the way you talk to yourself mirrored the way toxic people talk to you. And slowly you started changing that dialogue. Started being gentler with yourself. Started treating yourself the way you wish others had treated you. Started giving yourself the grace you always gave everyone else, but never gave yourself. And as that inner relationship healed, as you became your own ally instead of your own enemy, it showed up in your face, in your posture, in your energy. People can sense when someone is at peace with themselves, when someone is not at war with who they are, when someone has stopped trying to be something they are not. That energy is magnetic. That energy is powerful. That energy is what people are responding to when they say you look different. Let me share something that might challenge you. Your old life is going to call you back. Not once, but multiple times. It will come disguised as nostalgia. Remember when things were simpler? It will come disguised as guilt. They really need you. Maybe you were too harsh. It will come disguised as fear. What if you cannot make it on your own? What if you are making a mistake? What if the grass is not actually greener? These are tests. Tests to see if you have really changed or if you are just temporarily inspired. Tests to see if you will go back to old patterns or if you have truly evolved. Tests to see if you will choose yourself again or if you will choose familiar dysfunction. And here is how you pass these tests. You remember why you left. You remember how you felt every single day in that old life. You remember the version of yourself who was dying slowly. You remember what it cost you to stay as long as you did. You remember the moment you finally found the courage to choose yourself. And you honor that moment by not betraying yourself again. By not going back to what you outgrew. By not shrinking yourself to fit into spaces you have expanded beyond. Subscribe and turn on notifications if you need regular reminders to choose yourself when the old life comes calling. Now, I want to address something important. Some of you watching this are not there yet. You are still in the toxic situation, still in the draining relationship, still in the soul-crushing job, still in the environment that is diminishing you. And you are watching this thinking, that sounds nice, but I cannot just leave. I have responsibilities. I have financial obligations. I have people depending on me. I have too much invested to walk away now. I hear you. And I am not going to tell you that leaving is easy or that there is a one-size-fits-all answer. But I am going to tell you this. Every day you stay is a day you are choosing that situation over yourself. I know that is hard to hear. I know there are complications. I know there are legitimate reasons that make leaving difficult, but difficulty is not impossibility. Complicated is not impossible. Hard is not the same as wrong. And what I need you to understand is that staying in what is killing you does not just affect you. It affects everyone around you. Your children are learning what relationships should look like by watching yours. Your friends are learning what boundaries look like by watching yours. Your colleagues are learning what self-respect looks like by watching yours. You are teaching people how to treat you by what you accept. You are showing them what you believe you deserve by what you tolerate. And if you are tolerating mistreatment, you are teaching them that mistreatment is acceptable. If you are still in that difficult situation, and you are trying to find the courage to choose yourself, leave a comment saying "not yet, but soon." Let that be your declaration. Your commitment to yourself that you are working toward change, even if you cannot make it happen today. Because here is what I know about courage. It does not show up as a lightning bolt that suddenly makes everything clear and easy. Courage shows up as a quiet voice that says, "I will try again tomorrow." Courage shows up in small decisions that move you incrementally toward change. Courage shows up when you start setting boundaries, even while you are still in the situation. When you start saying no even in small ways. When you start protecting your energy even before you can completely change your environment. Every small act of self-advocacy is preparing you for the big act of walking away. You are building the muscle. You are practicing the skill. You are proving to yourself that you can choose yourself even in small moments, which will eventually give you the strength to choose yourself in the big moment. Let me tell you what your life looks like on the other side of this transformation. You wake up without dread. Think about that for a moment. You open your eyes in the morning and your first feeling is not anxiety about the day ahead. You do not immediately start running through all the ways you need to manage other people's emotions. You do not wake up already exhausted from the performance you are about to give. You just wake up. And it feels peaceful. You go through your day without constantly checking for approval. You make decisions based on what feels right to you, not based on what will prevent conflict or keep others happy. You say no without guilt. You express needs without apology. You take up space without shrinking. You exist without constantly monitoring how others are responding to your existence. You come home to peace. Your home becomes a sanctuary instead of another place where you have to perform. You can just be. You can rest. You can recharge. You can be messy and imperfect and human without someone criticizing or correcting or improving you. You sleep through the night. Your body finally feels safe enough to completely relax. You are not waking up every few hours with anxiety. You are not grinding your teeth or clenching your jaw in your sleep. Your nervous system is not in constant fight or flight mode. You are actually resting. This is not a fantasy. This is what life looks like when you choose yourself. This is what becomes possible when you walk away from what is not meant for you. And yes, there are challenges. Yes, there are difficult moments. Yes, there are times when you question if you made the right choice. But even on the hardest day of your new life, you are not back in that place of daily dying. Even on the most difficult day, you are still choosing yourself. Even when things are not perfect, they are still better than when you were betraying yourself daily. Hit the like button right now if you are committed to never going back to who you had to be in order to survive in toxic environments. Here is what I need you to know about the people who do not recognize you anymore. Let them not recognize you. Let them be confused by your transformation. Let them wonder what happened. Let them ask their questions. You do not owe them your story. You do not owe them an explanation for why you look lighter, brighter, more alive. You do not owe them access to your healing journey. Some people knew you during your storm, and they will not recognize you during your peace. Some people knew you during your breaking, and they will not understand you during your becoming. Some people knew you when you were small, and they will be uncomfortable with you expanded. And that is okay. Their discomfort is not your problem to solve. Their confusion is not your responsibility to clear up. Their inability to recognize you is actually confirmation that you have truly changed. Let me share one final story with you. There was a man who spent 20 years in a corporate job that was eating him alive. The money was good. The title was impressive. But every single day he felt like he was betraying himself. He had dreams of starting his own business, of doing work that actually mattered to him, of building something meaningful. But he was afraid of financial insecurity, afraid of what people would think, afraid of failing. So he stayed. And every year he looked a little more tired, a little more defeated, a little more like someone who had given up, until his doctor told him his stress levels were literally killing him. High blood pressure, heart palpitations, stress-related health issues piling up. That was his wake-up call. He quit, started his own business, took a massive pay cut, worked longer hours than he ever had before. But he was working for himself, building something he believed in, doing work that fed his soul instead of draining it. Within a year, all his stress-related health issues resolved. Within 2 years, people from his old company were asking if he had discovered the fountain of youth. He had not found any fountain. He had just stopped drinking from the well of soul death. He had stopped trading his life for a paycheck. He had stopped sacrificing who he was for what looked good on paper. If you are ready to stop sacrificing yourself for things that do not feed your soul, type "chosen" in the comments right now. Not chosen by cosmic forces, but chosen by yourself. You chose yourself. And that choice changed everything. That choice is why you look different now. That choice is why people do not recognize you. That choice is why your energy has shifted. That choice is why you are attracting different people. That choice is why you are sleeping through the night. That choice is why you wake up without dread. That choice is why you are finally becoming who you were always meant to be before life taught you to be less. Share this video with someone who needs permission to choose themselves, someone who is still in that toxic job, that draining relationship, that diminishing environment, someone who needs to see that walking away is not selfish. It is survival. Someone who needs to know that choosing yourself is not the end of the story, it is the beginning of the real one. Click the next video on your screen to learn about what happens when you stop people-pleasing and start setting boundaries that protect your peace. Watch it now while you are in this energy, while you are feeling the truth of your own transformation, while you are remembering why you chose yourself in the first place. Your old life does not recognize the new you. Good. That means you really changed. That means you really grew. That means you really chose yourself. And that choice is written all over your face for anyone with eyes to see. Let them wonder. Let them ask. Let them be confused. You know the truth. You walked away from death and chose life. You released what was heavy and became light. You stopped performing and started living. You stopped surviving and started thriving, and it shows in your face, in your energy, in your entire being. You are not who you used to be. And that is not something to explain or justify or defend. That is something to celebrate. You chose yourself. Finally, completely, unapologetically. And that choice saved your life. Welcome home to yourself. Welcome home to peace. Welcome home to the life you were always meant to live.